Exodus chapter 16, verse 18. And when they did meet it with an omer. Notes. An omer is the equivalent of about 6 pints. Considering there were approximately 3 million people, this would play out to some 18 million pints, or about 13.5 million pounds gathered daily. To help us understand it even more, it would take a train pulling 45 cars, each car having in it 15 tons to take care of one day's supply. This means that approximately 1.5 million tons of manna were gathered annually by Israel. And let it be remembered that this continued for nearly 40 years. This is a great miracle from God. Scriptures. He who gathered much had nothing over, and he who gathered little had no lack. Notes. Christians who hoard money will find that it will not grow as they think. Christians who give generously to the work of God will find that personally and for their family they will have no lack. God blesses us in order that we may actually bless His work. Scripture. They gathered every man according to his eating. Notes. That which the Lord gives to us as believers should be used according to our need, and the balance be given to the work of God. However, we must make certain that what we are supporting is truly the work of God, and sadly to say, a lot of things are not actually of the work of the Lord, and most of it's actually in the modern church. Verse 19. And Moses said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Notes. What they gathered they were to eat. None was to be left over for the next day. This means that we must partake of Christ every day. As well, what we receive today from the Lord will not suffice for tomorrow. Tomorrow must and will bring a fresh endowment of power from on high. Verse 20. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank, and Moses was angry with them. Notes, that which some Christians are trying to present to the world stinks, at least in the nostrils of God, because it is someone else's vision or yesterday's blessing. Verse 21. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. Notes, the Christian feed, or I should say, thus must the Christian feed upon Christ every day. This is another typology of such. And my voice is getting a little tired, but anyways, verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Notes, they were allowed to gather twice as much on the 6th day, because the manna would not fall on the 7th day. Verse 23. And things are about to get, they're going to talk about the Sabbath. We're going to discuss the Sabbath. Verse 23, and he said unto them, This is that which the Lord has said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that you will seethe, and that which remains over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Notes, the day of rest here suddenly appears after a silence of more than 2,000 years. Redemption being accomplished, typified by deliverance from Egypt, the Sabbath is gifted to Israel. The Jewish Sabbath was meant to serve as a portrayal of the rest that one receives when coming to Christ. In other words, Christ is the fulfillment of the Sabbath, and hence that particular day not being kept in the old manner under the new covenant. Verse 24. And they laid it up, which was the manna, till the morning as Moses bade. And it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. Notes, the double amount gathered on Friday with the leftover to be used on Saturday, it survived. Verse 25. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today it is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today you shall not find it, which is the manna in the field. Verse 26. 6 days shall you gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. Verse 27. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. Right after the instructions. Notes, man has little heart for God's rest. His nature is bad. He can neither rest with nor work for God himself. If God makes a rest for him, he will not keep it, and if God tells him to work, he will not do it. In this chapter, Israel, at least to a certain degree, refused the Sabbath as a gift, and in Numbers 15, disobeyed it as a law. And boy, that really got God's dander up. Verse 28. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? Notes, he's actually speaking of the congregation. Scripture. See, for that the Lord has given you the Sabbath, therefore he gives you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. Verse 30. So the people rested on the 7th day. Notes. As stated, this particular day, the Sabbath, commanded by God for Israel to keep, was meant to serve as a type of Christ and the rest he would give on acceptance of him. That's in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 30. There's a little more on that subject. Verse 31. And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like vapors made with honey. Notes, manna was a provision made for God's people. It was not a question of redemption, that having been obtained by the blood of the cross and there alone. Manna was meant to proclaim Christ and his sustenance for the saints, and that on a daily basis. The wilderness afforded little. In God alone was their portion. They had no chance of survival without him, obviously. Verse 32. And Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord commands. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. Notes, a container of manna was to be kept as a most precious memorial of faithfulness to God, whereas the manna held over would normally breed worms and stink. The manna addressed here in this verse would be sustained by the power of God for many, many centuries. The miracles of the past are to never be forgotten, but related over and over. Verse 33, And Moses said unto Aaron, Take a pot, and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. Notes, the testimony was the 10 Commandments kept on 2 tablets of stone and preserved in the Ark of the Covenant. So we're talking futuristic terms here. Verse 35. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is the 10th part of an ephah. We'll have to pick up in chapter 17 of Exodus. Thank you.